for giving the floor. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I would love to extend my gratitude to the organizers of this intellectual meeting. Thank you for this opportunity. The topic I'm addressing today is no place for in-betweens, queer identities and sisterhood in Michelle Cliff's No Telephone to Heaven. Jamaican writer Michelle Cliff is one of the Caribbean novelists whose experiment with feminist literature underscores an outstanding and path-breaking aesthetics which challenges both patriarchal and traditional feminist literary trends. Published in 1987, her novel portrays Claire Savage and Harry Harriet, a transgender character who develop a close relationship as they involved in a revolution to curb forces that undermine Jamaica's progress even after independence. Hence, what's the meaning of Cliff's representation of a male character who eventually identifies himself as a woman? Using Judith Butler's and Bell Hooks' theories on gender and sisterhood, respectively, this study looks at how Cliff's novel inscribes the transgender category not only to question representation of feminine identities or femininities, but also to reinstate female solidarity. I argue that transgender, through the characterization of Harry Harriet, allows Cliff to renegotiate femininity and claim for the inclusion of all female gender and sexual categories in the promotion of women's solidarity in nationalist struggles. This paper covers two main points. And the first point I would love to address is forming identity, transgender, and anti-binary identities. This point looks at how Cliff This point looks at how Cliff conceives of gender construction as identity performance. Such an identity representation enables the Jamaican writer to produce a narrative that depicts a transgender character, a male-female, socially despised and excluded. Assuming her femininity as a man, Harry Harriet challenges social norms and rejects the representation of binary gender categories, male body masculinity versus female body femininity. Harry Harriet's transformation is not surgical, but performative. Cliff's protagonist's identity alteration resonates with Butler's theory of gender, which Nikki Sullivan interprets as the performative effect of reiterative acts, that is, acts that can be and are repeated. Building on Butler's conception of gender, Irene Lacerda argued that one can generate one's gender by behaving and repeating actions that shape her gender identity as such. Analyzing Harriet's transformation, Lacerda asserts that Harriet is constantly reconstructing her notion of identity, favoring a feminine gender, although she was born with a male sex. This identity performance is dramatized in No Telephone to Heaven, when at a pool party, Harry Harriet shows up with a bikini. As the narrator describes her, Harry Harriet puts on a bikini bra, stretched across his hairy, delicately mounted chest, panties cradling his cock and balls, and start to dance to Hey Jude on page 21. Another performance is seen at the end of the novel when she decides to become a nurse, a profession of providing care often associated with women. By assuming her nurturing role as a nurse, according to Nadia Elia, Harry Harriet puts on a show juggling performance, passing agency, and self-determination. Such a performative transformation tells us that becoming a woman is not contingent on a surgical intervention. One can become a woman through mimicry and adoption of female gender roles. No Telephone to Heaven's representation of Harry Harriet transformed identity as transgender resonates with queer theory, which calls for the inclusion of bisexuals, transgenders, and travesties in defining non-heterosexual practices. Let me jump to the next point because time is ticking away very quickly. The next point I would love to address is the transgender sister, women's solidarity and decolonization. Some critics have viewed Harry Harriet as a lesbian character based on the peculiar relationship she develops with Claire as a female transgender. Such an argument is mainly drawn from their consideration of the sole erotic scene involving Harry, Harriet, and Claire Savage. As the narrator says, they led side by side under the sky thrilling in its brightness, touching gently, kissing tongues tongue entwined, coming to laughing. Natasha Tinsley conceives of this scene as lesbian eroticism. Claire herself seemingly corroborates this same-sex love paradigm, disclosing that she feels drawn to Harry Harriet despite her strangeness. This admission of attraction complexifies the nature of their relationship. Yet, though Claire and Harry Harriet have had an intimate encounter and experienced some sort of attraction, as Claire admitted, it's simplistic and straightforward to consider them as lesbians. Looking at the evolution of their relationship, one can see that what unites them is a profound friendship. Hence, the mutual support and collaboration both friends enact throughout the novel brings to light female solidarity, or what critics name sisterhood. The notion of sisterhood, Cliff's novel inscribes, corroborates bell Hook's theory about including the various aspects of women's social realities and various interests in the advocacy and enactment of a fulfilling women's bonding. However, Cliff extends Hook's argument, incorporating different femininities, such as female transgenders, into the politics and dynamics of female solidarity. It's worth mentioning then that Claire and Harriet's bonding is not grounded upon a common oppression as advocated by the bourgeois white women in the 1970s. The foundation of their sisterhood replicates Judith Butler's theory that a strong and successful sisterhood must be built upon a goal, a purpose of unity. To conclude, I would say that addressing the issue of queer identities and sisterhood helped us to demonstrate how Cliff uses gender as an identity category to question essential representations of a woman. Depicting a female transgender character opens up possibilities and perspectives for the Caribbean female narrative to redress conceptions of gender binary identities. Gender does not therefore differentiate masculinity and femininity. It puts them together, creating a liminal, intersectional, and hybrid space. This literary engagement with queer identity also permits Cliff to reinstate the notion of sisterhood, providing a more comprehensive articulation of political female solidarity, particularly based on the common goal of decolonizing Jamaica. The coalition between the female heterosexual and the female transgender thus emerges as a will from cliff to humanize relationships between all types of women and gear them towards goals of national and global interest. With no telephone to heaven, we witness the emergence of a Caribbean feminist aesthetics, which not only relates women concerns, but also engages in nationalist agendas. Thanks so much.